Welcome back, rankers. Well, Google has finally launched brand pages for Google+, and it's got actually a lot more excitement about it and a lot more talked about than I would have thought it would have, because they've done a couple of interesting things. Now, you might say, well, what's a brand page? Well, we've set ours up today, and we'll just go and have a look at that one. That's it. Boring. But basically, we can post as the brand there rather than just as ourselves. A bit like, your Facebook company pages or business pages or fan pages, whatever you want to call them. There's some fundamental differences, though, with the way that Google Plus operates, but it's caused quite a bit of consternation. I've had quite a few questions about it today, and I'll just start with some of the ones when I announced it this morning on Google Plus. Paul Warbank, who many of you will know as a very clever IT guy and broadcaster and an author, but he's based out of Sydney, so I'm not going to blame him for that. He probably had no say in that. But he said, what a mess. What is a business meant to do? How are you meant to explain this to a small business? You've got Google Places, you've got brand pages now, you've got Facebook pages. Where the hell is it? You've got LinkedIn. You've got LinkedIn for personal. You've got LinkedIn for your business page. Where are you meant to go? Well, I tend to agree to a certain extent with Chris Thomas of Resio, another Melbourne-based SEO company. We're both quoted in this article this morning by Smart Company. Chris has said, it's important to jump on, go and claim it because it's good to get all your channels. But he's saying take a wait-and-see approach. I'm not saying that. That's where I part company with Chris on that particular point. I think you should be jumping in for a number of reasons head first and just getting in and making your Google Brand Plus page, whatever you want to call it, work. And there's a number of reasons for this. And it was brought to my attention by, once again this morning, Sean Callanan, who pointed out this article written by Peter Stringer of the, I'm going to get the name wrong, the Celtics. I was going to say Boston Celtics, but I'm not 100% sure if that's it. But I'll have a look. But he made this article, yes, it was the Boston Celtics, thank goodness. He wrote this article this morning about Google+, and one of the fundamental differences with this is a thing called Google Connect. I should say Google Direct Connect. And there's been a few people making that point this morning, including Josh Rowe of Australia Post. He's here somewhere. He's gone. Must have been on Twitter, he told me that. But this Google Direct Connect thing is quite interesting. I'll just show you how it works. Basically, if you go to Google now, and I'm in Chrome, and I could just type it into the multi-purpose bar in Chrome, but I won't. I want to show you exactly what it looks like in Google. We'll go to google.com. And if I was to just type in the New York Times, I would get number one result, New York Times, and I'd be able to search this site directly from within the Google interface as well. However, if I put a plus now in front of that, it will take me directly to, did this morning, it's going to make a liar out of me now. It is making a liar out of me. Thank you, Google. Basically, what's meant to happen is it's meant to take me directly to the Google Plus page. Maybe it's because I did the search first. Let's have a look at Muppets. You might think, why is he typing in Muppets? Well, Muppets was the other brand that was announced. It's not working now. And I'm logged into Google Plus. I'm in my Chrome browser, but it was working this morning. Anyway, this fantastic thing that I'm telling you about, this Direct Connect, is it works by, if you type plus, if you preface a brand or a product with plus, it should take you directly to the Google Plus page. So it was doing this morning. It's not doing it now. It seems to be a bit flaky. Let's try another browser. We'll try Muppets. No, different browser, different login, and it's still not working. But it's great when it works. And this whole Direct Connect thing, when it does work, is a big deal. because it's going to take your client or whoever's looking for you directly to a page that they can immediately interact with you. Now, you might say, well, why is that any different to, say, Facebook or... well, Facebook doesn't have a really good discovery ability built into it. Its internal search is a bit sucky. And really the way to get interact with your clients there or your potential customers there is to do a lot of this. Here, this is my brand. Have a look at my brand. That's push, what we call push advertising. That's about taking out display ads. It's about putting ads in places where you think people might see them or targeting them to a specific demographic, but they haven't actually asked to see that. They haven't actually requested that. And that's the difference between search marketing, is that it's pull marketing, meaning that I've requested that information. And that's why we use, that's how people use search, and that's why we've always said it's the low-hanging fruit of online marketing, because you get that set up properly. All these other mediums, of course, work, but search, it's a whole different mindset when people use it. People are looking for your brand. They're not asking you to. They're not sitting there and going to be offended if you stick your brand comes up when they search for it. Like a lot of us will just switch off ads as soon as they come on the television because we're not interested. The difference with search is that people are looking for that brand or that information right now. Also, with the product pages, the brand pages, you can set up a brand page for a local business. So Google are differentiating between a number of different categories here. Restaurants, local business type stuff that you would think that might be really important for mobile. If you've got a business whose clientele is primarily local, set up your brand page. It's going to help, well, it will be involved in helping Google understand, as well as your places page, how relevant you are to a mobile search in a given geographical area. Do it. If it's got normal company business pages, and that's what we've set up here, looks pretty basic, but it is what it is. And then you've also got entertainment pages. So if you're an organisation that specialises, it might be theatre or whatever, sports as well, there's specific types of pages you can set up. And you've got to ask yourself, why is Google separating these out into these different categories? Part of it is because of the way that we search. And we search and we look for different businesses in different ways. You might look for a restaurant whilst you're mobile. You're not, and Google's probably seeing a lot of searches for those sorts of local businesses off mobile now. The other thing that I would say about the Google brand page is that it's really important to do what you do with authorship in your own Google profile. When we talked about make sure you set up Google authorship if you're a writer or a blogger of some description, and set up your Google profile. It's important also to set that up as the brand page. You've got to set up what's called a rel equals publisher link, and I'll show you what that looks like. We've set it up on our side already. So in the code, don't freak out on me here, it's just code. That's basically it. That's the link. And this is just our plus brand page. And it just says that all the content on every page where this appears is published by these guys, us. So, and then of course, under the About section, you need to link it back to your website. And that does a couple of things as well. Once again, it says that Google knows you are actually the publisher of that content. So it helps if a piece of content, say, doesn't have any authorship around it, and there's plenty of content on a site like that. Typically, the only content on a site that will have authorship around it will be blog posts. Generic copy doesn't necessarily have any authorship around it. By using this publishing tag and by using the branded page, you're saying to Google, this is my content, this is our content. So Google will know that if anybody tries to rip that content, that actually you're the first one that published it, therefore duplicate content penalties or downgrades don't apply to your content because it knows that you published it first. So that's why another reason it's really important. But that will also influence Direct Connect as well. Direct Connect won't work unless you have all these other things in place. But the big thing about Direct Connect that you need to understand is that, let's just take a look at the NAB, now the NAB has set up today their branded plus page. And they even did a press release about it apparently, which I thought was interesting. They haven't actually, when I last looked at this, okay, they have. I've said you really need to set up your about information because they hadn't set that up this morning. In fact, my comment may even be there. Let's see, here we are down here. So I've said down here, you haven't filled out your about section. You really need to get a link back to your site. So they've done that now. It's really important to do that. And the reason that it's important to do this, and it gets back to what Chris Thomas of Resio was saying in the Smart Company article as well, is it's important to claim this. Because if you are a local restaurant, if you are a medium-sized company, if you're a small company, and you don't have a trademark on your brand, whatever that might be, like Stuart Media, we don't have a trademark on that. And there's multiple Stuart Medias around the world. How does Google know when Direct Connect is working and you put plus in front of a brand or a product name? Because you can set one of these up for a particular product as well as a particular brand. How does Google know who to send, what branded page to send the user to if there's more than one NAB? Like, for instance, if we go and have a search of national NAB, we've got the National Australia Bank here, we've got the National Association of Broadcasters, we've got the National Accountability Bureau, we've got the National Association of Boards. So how does Google know, if you're doing plus NAB, who to send you to? We don't know yet. I mean, there has been some talk about here, well, surely geo-targeting is probably going to come into it. For instance, you're probably not going to get sent to the National Australia Bank if you're sitting in the US somewhere doing a search. But there's no evidence of that geo-targeting happening. So if you're a small company and a small business or a medium business or whatever, you need to get in and claim this now, because at least if you've done it, you're in the running. If you haven't done it, then you're probably not going to be able to get it. Remember what it was like when you went to register your domain name and somebody else has already got it and they had it for a legitimate reason, because maybe they were also called whatever the name of your business was called or something similar, so you couldn't get it. That's what this is like. Get in. It'll take you maximum half an hour to set up, and if you've already got a Google profile account, that is. And then you can start playing with it later. But there's little other snippets of things that we're seeing that it looks like Google is thinking about implementing, or where, say, Direct Connect is heading. And if we have a look at your account settings, you'll see now in your account settings of your Google Plus account settings or your Google profile account settings that Google Plus pages automatically add a Google Plus page to my circles if I search for plus followed by the page's name. That's pretty indicative that they're going to give this whole plus brand search activity a big push. And people will get used to doing it. Let's face it, people use Google as their location bar, right? What's the most search phrase in Google? Facebook. Why? Because people can't be bothered typing in facebook.com in their location bar. They'll just type it into Google and click. So they're taking this one step further. Brands are hugely searched in Google. And as Peter Stringer points out in his article, what better strategy than to keep the user on a Google property so that they can advertise to them, or at least monetize them at some point in the future. Of course, there's no ads within Google Plus at the moment, but hey, there's going to be. As Peter pointed out in his article, they made $28 billion on advertising last year. And that is it for today's show. Hope to see you on Google Plus, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.